version. I kind of
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Can you just pretend to be Sarah Silverman?
So now that I pushed record, what you're trying to tell me, James, is Pixels is your favorite Adam Sandler film?
It's probably in the top 5.
Really?
I mean, I'm trying to name 5 other films. Okay, let's see.
If you haven't watched
Happy Gilmore.
If you haven't watched Uncut,
I need to watch Uncut. I almost watched it today, but let me tell you why I didn't watch
Gems
it today.
is pretty good.
This has pretty good. This has nothing to do with our show, but I'll tell you why I didn't watch it. It popped up on my thing because it's on Amazon Prime.
And Uncut Gems is?
Yeah. And then I went, oh, wait a tick.
For it like an idiot.
Tons of people have told me I need to watch The Boys.
Yep.
And I started watching The Boys instead. So I picked The Boys. Well, it's got Simon Pegg and Carl Urban. I was hoping it would just end up being another one of them Star Trek movies, but it didn't happen.
Wait, who is Simon Pegg in The Boys?
Have you not seen The Boys?
No, I've watched The Boys.
He's his father.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, forgot. Yeah.
I was going to say, how can you forget? Because he has that which, do you know the backstory of that? Unless we'll not do the show. I'll go off on a tirade. The backstory of that is that the actual graphic novel comic books that's based on.
Yeah.
When they wrote it as Simon Pegg. They wanted him. The problem is they started writing that about the time Spaced came out. And I don't know if you know this or not, time has passed.
Yeah.
And so Simon Pegg was too old, but Simon Pegg was so honored that they based that character on what they thought he would play that he signed up to play the father. There you go. Your useless Boys trivia.
I love
I thought you'd seen The Boys. You're always talking about how you love boys.
I love their penises. The thing about it is I just finished up the Twilight. Well, I have one more episode to go.
Joe just finished up Twilight. Congratulations.
Yep.
I actually never did finish all the Twilight.
He was Team Jacob. He was disappointed.
I can honestly, I've never.
Lost. If you're talking about Lost, then I probably was Team Jacob. That too obscure for the fans today. They forget about Lost.
By the way, speaking of which, too obscure, a lot of people don't. I mean, it seems to be one of those things. You've got your diehards, but a lot of people are like,
which also has what we're going to talk about today. But keep going.
Well, yeah.
Keep going.
But anyway, yeah. No, I was just going to say you don't hear people talk about Lost too much anymore.
No, I don't. No, I don't think you do.
Yeah, and speaking of Lost, that is one show that is loaded.
With what, Chad, is our topic today?
McGuffins.
That's right. They're a little tasty bird that was an offshoot of puffins.
Now, that's not what I heard at all.
See, they started to starve in Switzerland because they couldn't pick a side. Nobody trade with them, and they'd ate up all the Hershey bars because that's where Switzerland chocolate's made.
That's not at all valid.
And then they got an idea. We'll make a hybrid animal out of a puffin and a
McGriddle. It was
McGriddle.
So much better.
McGriddle. See, I was going to tag on to that joke. I was going to take that joke, and Joe said, yeah, then they killed the animal, and then it was the meat that they put in between the egg and the English muffin and the cheese that they serve at McDonald's.
Yes. So, welcome to McGuffin.
McGuffins.
We're talking about McGuffins. It's something actually we wanted to talk about for a while. I keep forgetting about it. One of our many topics I keep forgetting that we should do.
And, this one's an interesting topic for me. So you guys are going to pick your 3 list, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got more than 3. But I've got more than 3.
I'm going to argue with some, and also I want to argue with some of the lists on the internet because I don't think they're actual McGuffins.
And that's exactly what I want to do, too. I've actually made a list of McGuffins that I have found online, because that's the other thing too. There is a strong argument, depending on which website you have, what a McGuffin is.
So let's get started. Do you mind if I read the actual definition if you go on to Wikipedia?
Go for it.
Sure.
I will give Wikipedia credit for this. A MacGuffin. In fiction, a MacGuffin is an object, device, or event that is necessary to the plot and the motivation of the characters, but insignificant, unimportant, or irrelevant in itself. The term was originated by Angus MacPhail for film, adopted by Alfred Hitchcock, and later extended to a similar device in other fiction. I thought Hitchcock was the one, but I was wrong. He stole it from Angus MacPhail.
Joe froze up.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you...
Go ahead. He stole it from Angus MacPhail.
Yeah. Do you have the story? Because I found it fascinating. The story of where Hitchcock gave a lecture about what. Okay, I'll read this real quick.
Well, before you read that, another thing, just real quick before you read that.
Okay.
There are several websites that actually say Hitchcock is the one that came up with the term, which we all three know is not the case.
Not the case.
Again, this whole thing about what a MacGuffin is crazy. So, Jay,
it's
go ahead.
probably because it's kind of become a MacGuffin of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell, the person running the country is a MacGuffin in himself too.
Irrelevant, right. Despite his best efforts.
Now, I've heard several people call him. I've heard several people call him many things, but McGuffin was never one of them. Yeah. Anyway,
I saw an opportunity.
Hitchcock gave a lecture at this upstart institution called Columbia University in 1939, where he said his origin of MacGuffin, where he got it, which he did give the Scottish origin of it. But this is actually what he said at that lecture. It might be a Scottish name taken from a story about two men on a train. One man says, "Hey, what's that package up there on the baggage rack?" And the other goes, "Oh, that's a MacGuffin." The first one asks, "Well, what's a MacGuffin?" Well, the other man says, "It's an apparatus for trapping lions in the Scottish Highlands." The first man says, "Wait, there's no lions in the Scottish Highlands." And the other one answers, "Well, then that's no MacGuffin." So you see that a MacGuffin is actually nothing at all.
Right. Well, here's a little bit. Angus MacPhail was actually a Scottish screenwriter, and that's how Hitchcock had worked with him, and that's how they'd met, and that's where he got it from.
Yep.
A little bit of history of the MacGuffin. Now,
yeah,
Chad, I am curious because I was looking through some lists as well, right?
Man, some of them were bullshit.
Some of them were bullshit because my number one that's on several lists, I'm curious if it's the same one as on your list that I say is bullshit, that the thing that they're talking about is actual important and has power.
I don't think it is because there was one that it seemed like I could have actually put together two different websites that argued that the one in particular that I say is bullshit, that it's not a MacGuffin. I actually found 50-50 split on whether or not it's a damn MacGuffin. So
what is it?
Rosebud.
I think that's a MacGuffin.
You do?
Yes.
Because it's irrelevant, but they still tell you what it is and everything. It leads the story.
It's leading the story, but it's in. Here's the reason why I'll call it MacGuffin. But go ahead.
I was really conflicted because my list I put together, some of them are obvious MacGuffins. After I put them on my list, they appeared on the list I was finding. But then some, I'm like, wait, is this actually a MacGuffin? Is it not a MacGuffin? So that's what my list is going to be. But yeah, this isn't even my pick. It's just Rosebud was the one that I was conflicted on whether or not it was. And I couldn't find a definitive answer if it was or not, because out of 10 websites, 5 said it was and 5 said it wasn't, because of the fact that it wasn't irrelevant to the plot. It actually led the story, and that they focused on it. They focused on it, that they ended up resolving the issue of what Rosebud was.
This is the issue with it, maybe a MacGuffin. And the reason is that and this is just because I've read so many books about Wells, right? Yeah. And I've read Bogdanovich's, I've read all of his interviews, the other filmmaker from, I can't remember his name. I mean, he's the one that published the last book of interviews right before he died. So they had lunch every day where he had chicken salad. The thing that I find interesting about that, what you all just said, and by the way, this is much more interesting than I thought we were going to talk about. So I'm glad you and I agree with this.
Yeah.
Or at least agree that not all of these are actual MacGuffins. What I find fascinating about this is that Wells kind of thought that it was all kind of bullshit armchair psychology. In fact, I learned the term armchair psychology reading about that, not from being on my actual real job, was from that, because he thought at the end of the day it was kind of bullshit and an easy way to hang the plot.
Right.
And he called it very simplistic armchair psychology. Well, I'm by the way, I'm pleased before someone criticizes me and roasts me on an open pit. That's a big ass pit. I am paraphrasing. Go read
Mount Vesuvius.
Them rainforest trees ain't gonna last.
If you're a big Wells fan, message me. I'll give you at least 3 books that you should check out and read if you want to learn more about the man. You may want to learn more about the more flawed he is, the more interesting I find him, because he was just a man.
Yeah.
But does that make sense, Chad?
Is
that the filmmaker himself was
it makes sense.
It was a way to tell that story and come back.
Yeah.
He was just a man with a obsession with mallow flavored confections.
And
which he demanded Peeps brand mallow flavored confection.
Can I give you the one that I saw on a lot of lists that I think's bullshit?
Go for it.
The Ring from Lord of the Rings.
I agree.
Oh, that is totally not a MacGuffin. I agree
because the ring has power. The ring attracts. The ring pushes the story. Whereas, can I blow one big one that was one of mine? Well,
how is the ring not irrelevant?
But I have to give an example of one that is a real MacGuffin. Before, so this can be one of mine. And James, if I take this away from you, I'm so sorry. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, Ark, and there's a Big Bang Theory episode that takes place that explains all this. Correct, guys?
Yeah.
If Indiana did nothing, nothing would have changed.
Right.
But we love that movie.
Oh yeah.
But if Indiana did nothing would have changed. They still would have opened that fucking ark on that hill, and it would have killed a bunch of Nazis.
Yep.
Right?
Well, and that's actually a good example of MacGuffin, because it does drive the quest, but the fascinating part of the story is, I mean, the ark has cool powers when it happens at the end. But as you said, it doesn't actually affect Indy.
Right.
And Indy doesn't affect it. It was going to happen. But
but the ring attracts and moves.
Yeah, well, and it's about the journey. And that's why I think some people want to force the ring into a MacGuffin, but I agree with you all.
But it's on several lists.
I know. It's
my entire thing
every
is,
single list.
How many times does Bilbo put the ring on? Not Bilbo, sorry.
I was going to say, you son of a bitch, we're talking about Frodo.
Please, I meant Herschel. Herschel, how many times does Herschel Baggins put that ring?
Herschel Baggins.
By the way, Herschel Baggins.
Herschel Baggins.
You can send me an email with proof that your name is actually Herschel Baggins, and I'll send you $1 American. But I've got to see a birth certificate with Herschel Baggins on it. That being said, and it's got to be legit. Don't con me out of my dollar. Anyway, when Herschel Baggins, because he uses it so much.
Yeah.
Frodo uses it so much, and like Joe said,
he uses it to escape. He's in the Prancing Pony, and he uses it to get away.
And it's slowly corrupting him.
Yeah. So I mean, it is in its own way a character, so to speak, because it does have a will.
I'm glad we agree on this, by the way, because I thought I was like,
yeah, no, it's bullshit.
It's bullshit. There's a lot of MacGuffins on these lists that are bullshit. All right, that's cool. I'm sorry. I'm just happy that we all agree on something.
Yeah.
I will fight in a few minutes. Don't worry, folks. Don't worry. This won't be the episode we always agree on.
All right. So who wants to go?
James, you go ahead and go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna wait, because what I'm gonna do is I think my list is gonna be 2 that I don't think are MacGuffins and 1 that is.
Well, I'll go.
And that'll be my every turn.
So I'll start with one, and I was going to start with something else, but I'll start with this one because I think in some movies it's a MacGuffin. In other movies, it's not, and that is, of course, the Holy Grail.
Yeah. That was one that was on a lot of lists that I was kind of shocked about, and then started thinking, I was like, oh well, if you're talking about Monty Python, then yes, it is.
It's a MacGuffin, and that's what I mean. And it depends on the film. Some people are like, well, Excalibur mentions the Holy Grail, and it's a MacGuffin sort of in Excalibur.
Is the Holy Grail the MacGuffin of Holy Grails?
I think so. I think it's the oldest one. It's definitely the one that has wormed its way into culture the most, because literally, how many people have you heard of, he's got to go get his grail, he's got to go, I mean, it's a term in of itself for what we're obsessed with.
The only thing that even comes second to that is probably the whale, the great white whale.
Yeah.
And I would say that
I don't think that's a MacGuffin.
No.
Yeah, I would even say that the Holy Grail is a MacGuffin in The Last Crusade. Because again, it follows the same thing.
Every Indiana Jones film is a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Well, matter of fact, actually, that's one of the things Spielberg said himself, that the problem was, Spielberg actually says that his favorite MacGuffin is the Ark. He says that's the ultimate one, even over the Holy Grail, which I was like, I like the Holy Grail one, but sure.
No, he's right. He's right. It's just once you realize that, and it's still the fun of Raiders is the adventure.
Yeah, well, and that's it. And that's when Indiana Jones works, is when it feels like an adventure, and that's cool.
But you
that
need
being
the
said,
MacGuffin.
you got to have, well, why would he go out? And that's what he said about Crystal Skull. He said what so many people were actually upset about was the MacGuffin.
What are they upset about, Chad?
Wait, what?
Crystal Skull. What are they upset about, Chad?
Fucking interdimensional beings.
But that's he made the comment.
What are they going to look like, George? Aliens?
Oh,
You guys ever read that story, right?
Yes.
Are they going to be interdimensional? I changed it from aliens to interdimensional. What do they look like? Aliens?
But no, I think that's
interesting.
That's
exactly how it happened, by the way.
Because I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about the Indiana Jones films, which I love. They're one of my favorite franchises of all time. But it is true. And what's interesting to me is before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a lot of people hated on Temple of Doom. And I don't know if it's because we like our Christian mythology McGuffins.
Those are just huge McGuffins. Because most people, whether you think this or not, if you live in America, you have some sort of, for the most part, the majority have some sort of Christian knowledge, right?
Well,
and have had that imparted onto you. So you probably can know what the Ark is, and you've probably maybe heard of the Holy Grail. So it's really easy than the heart of blah, 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 blah.
Well, and I think the flip side of it is the stones in Temple of Doom and all that stuff that's in Cars. But yeah, I think the other part about it is, and this is me trying to be a little worldly here, but I think it's true. You know, other religions like the Muslim faith recognizes Jesus as a prophet. Christianity doesn't recognize other religions that well. That's not a critique. Please don't attack me. Of religion, but it is true. We don't.
I agree.
It does tend to be that Christianity says we're it, and I think that's one of the reasons why the average movie-going audience that went to Sunday school and all that stuff, we want that Christian mythology built in. I say we. I love Temple of Doom. I appreciate for what it is. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's got some issues. I'm just glad that Indy came back. It is the least of the four. But that being said, I think that
at least in the series.
Well, yeah.
Although I've never seen an episode of Young Indiana Jones in my life.
Yeah, they're fun. They're I mean, that's what they were meant to do. Lucas wanted to be somewhat educational. You want to see what happens when Indy meets Pablo Picasso? Art. Anyway, but yeah. So Holy Grail.
Next time Indy can jump home.
Hoping beyond hope. Anyway, but I think that's so. The Holy Grail. A Holy Grail can be a MacGuffin, but it cannot be, and it's definitely, like you said, it's a MacGuffin in Monty Python because it never does anything. Matter of fact, spoiler alert.
Monty Python doesn't even have an ending.
No, that's what I mean. Spoiler alert: you never actually get to see the Grail. Now you see a beacon that just so happens to be Grail shaped.
Yeah.
Wicked, evil, naughty Zoot. But there's a few movies where the Holy Grail is not the MacGuffin, where it actually is a power and all that stuff. But for the most part,
the Holy Grail is the Holy Grail of McGuffins.
McGuffins. So yeah, that would be my first one. It wasn't going to be my first one, but it will be now. So Holy Grail.
Chad.
Okay.
I'm loving this. This is going really well.
So here's my first two that I don't believe are MacGuffins, but one of them I think can be. One-Eyed Willie. The Goonies.
He doesn't have a lot of impact. You could have just called.
I mean, he's still driving the plot, though. It's finding One-Eyed Willie's treasure. Now, at the end, granted, before they do the cop out of going, oh, we actually have the jewels right here. It was, we don't care about this. We're going to be together anyway. That's all that matters. And that would have made it a MacGuffin because it was irrelevant. But at the end, they still had the jewels of One-Eyed Willie. Therefore, not a MacGuffin.
And why'd they have to call him One-Eyed Willie?
Yeah.
Which one came first?
I don't know.
It's a double entendre joke. I didn't even mean for it to be.
It's actually, in all fairness, his Christian name was William Cyclops, but.
So One-Eyed Willie's possible, kind of?
Yeah.
Agree, James?
I'm steering across from that one.
Yeah.
He does have a little bit, I don't know. Go ahead.
This one appeared on numerous
lists. In my prequel.
Yeah.
Willie.
Now, this one appeared on numerous lists, and I agree that I do not agree with it at all. Leeloo, the Fifth Element, I do not think is a MacGuffin.
No, she impacts the story. You follow her through the whole story.
It's all about her. I saw 3 lists where Leeloo was listed as a MacGuffin.
Bruce, I almost said Bruce Wayne, and I was like, Bruce Campbell, and I couldn't think of Bruce's name.
So, okay, we agree. Leeloo. Now, here's
He's
one
the
that
main
I'm
character in the movie. The movie's about her, not him.
The title is in the name. Her name is the title, the fifth element. Not
Everything Bruce Willis does is in service of that character.
Yeah. So I agree. Complete bullshit. Screw those lists. Now this one's actually a me because I couldn't find it on any list, and I think it's a MacGuffin. The murder of Marvin Acme.
Yes.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a huge MacGuffin because it's actually not about the murder. It's about the will, and it's about him, Judge Doom, wanting to create the interstate through Toontown.
But if he hadn't died, he wouldn't be able to do it, though.
But again, the murder drives the plot, but it's insignificant.
It's interesting what we think a MacGuffin is.
Yeah. So I don't think I think Marvin Acme's a MacGuffin. I think it's one of those ones that people could argue with me on, but I still think it's a MacGuffin because there are several different elements that actually his murder, even though it's significant to the plot, it's not the overall point of it.
Do you think we could get a good director on to argue with us about what a MacGuffin is?
No.
Wouldn't hurt to try, though, would it?
No, it wouldn't hurt to try.
Okay.
So that's my first pick is Marvin Acme, the murder of Marvin Acme, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yes, I pulled a Joe, Children of Men.
I don't think it's the same. By the way, have you guys ever seen Children of Men? You know the MacGuffin in that movie is they can't procreate.
That's actually appeared on a couple of lists, by the way. That's a MacGuffin.
Oh, let me give you another one.
All right.
I tell you one of my favorites.
Go for it.
One of my favorites is an easy one. But I'm going to defend you all for a second. The Affinity Stones from the Avengers, is that a MacGuffin?
No, it's not a MacGuffin. I saw that on several lists too. These people do not know what a MacGuffin is. It's not a MacGuffin. It drives the fucking plot. Ooh, it drives the plot.
I said the F word earlier.
That's two. Here's 2 quarters in the swear jar. That's our MacGuffin.
Here's one of my favorite, and it drives.
God, I realized I went crazy on the '80s Toy Line episode, and I apologize to everybody. We hadn't talked to each other in a long time, so I was like, oh, I got too comfortable.
It's fine. It's not. We don't have any listeners. It's good.
I know.
So
except for Herschel Baggins. I see you, Herschel. I'm with you, buddy.
The briefcase in Pulp Fiction's a MacGuffin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
One of the best MacGuffins of all time.
Yep. Completely agree with you.
Total MacGuffin. Doesn't matter what's in there. I love the fact, and if you're of a certain age, you know this. You're a geek, there were right after Pulp Fiction internet was blowing up. I got the internet in '96. There were so many websites dedicated to if that was Marcellus Wallace's soul, and he's trying to get it back to Marcellus Wallace. Is that X? Is that Y? Is that Z? There was so much obsession over what's in that briefcase, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit what's in that briefcase.
Completely unlike the briefcase in Ronin.
I don't remember the plot to Ronin,
but that appears as the Ronin appears on several lists as a MacGuffin.
I've got another huge MacGuffin. You'll check it out sometime as soon as we're done. But that is pointless. I'm not going to talk about it because there's no reason for me to explain the plot of Pulp Fiction. If you've not seen it, well, you really should. If you're listening to a movie podcast right now or an entertainment when you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, I'm a little.
Well, and you need to watch it just so you can figure out what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
And realize that I stand behind this, the most influential film in the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's no Star Wars. You ever see one of them Star Wars?
No, but Star Wars was made 40 years ago. That'd be.
I know. I was being what my father refers to as asinine.
We could get in an argument about that because you could say it was Jaws and then compounded by Star Wars and Raiders and the same people making, But anyway, keep going. Who's next?
James.
I want to do one. This will be really quick. But I love it and I just rewatched it with my kids because it's so asinine, and that's why I love it. There is an episode of Teen Titans Go. I've mentioned it before, It's the
which is
episode
the
called
best DC movie.
With the
That
Teen
and
Titans Go to the
Spider-Man Across
movie.
the Spider-Verse,
Yeah.
which is not a DC movie.
The episode. The episode is called The Art of Ninjitsu. It's season 3 episode. I don't know, 30. Who knows? But it's season 3. And they're being ninjas. And they're trying to get to what, Joe? The McGuffin. And Beast Boy has the line. Robin has the line first. We have to capture the McGuffin hidden in this fortress. And Beast Boy goes, what's a McGuffin? It's what we're after. But what is it? Doesn't matter. And that's actually in the first minute of the episode. And it keeps going back to it and goes, well, what's a McGuffin? By the way, at the end, Robin finally gets to the McGuffin. And spoiler, it's an egg McGuffin, which is a sandwich.
Oh, okay. I've seen that episode.
It is. And so I had to bring up the McGuffin because I just love every time it's brought up in the episode. But what is it, McGuffin? It doesn't matter. It's what we need. Well, what's the McGuffin? It's what we need. But to get it, we have to go on this quest. But what is the McGuffin? It doesn't matter. We have to go on the quest to get the McGuffin. And my kids, of course, had no idea what a McGuffin was. I laughed every time. And they were like, Dad, what is a McGuffin? It's what they've got to go on the quest for. He just told you that. But it's a plot device. So it's fun to watch cartoons with my kids and ruin everything about their childhood.
All right, who's next?
Okay, here's my one.
Egg McGuffin.
That has appeared on numerous lists, and I say it's bullshit. The Necronomicon.
I saw that too.
It does stuff.
I cannot figure it out because if it wasn't for the Necronomicon, they couldn't raise the dead. They actually have to read from it.
They have to read from it.
For the Necronomicon.
Maybe you could argue that in Army of Darkness it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Still, no. But he still needs. Well, no, he just needs to read 3. He just needs to say the 3 words.
Plateau,
necktie.
Nectar, nickel. It's an N word. It's
I don't believe the Necronomicon.
I said it. I basically
said it.
So sorry, the people who made these lists. The Necronomicon is not a MacGuffin.
Agreed.
This one's.
I really wish I had like a budget for special effects because I'd have ghosts floating by me and I'd just start going, no, it's not. Don't mess with it. But I don't have a budget.
Now, this one actually appeared on no list. It was one that I came up with and said, maybe this is a MacGuffin. Maybe it's not. I couldn't determine it. John Malkovich.
In being John Malkovich?
In being John Malkovich.
I don't think that's a MacGuffin. How's that a MacGuffin?
Because it doesn't matter who they're in. It's just John Malkovich. It's them being able to take over another person. John Malkovich is the MacGuffin.
And originally, correct me
it's
if I'm
irrelevant
wrong,
to the fact that it's John Malkovich. It could have been Joe
being
Schmo.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's why I thought
I would have watched that, by the way.
Is that a MacGuffin?
Of course you would.
So I wanted to ask your opinions on that one because I didn't think it was.
Okay, the problem with this is that I
didn't know if it wasn't.
I need to go. That's another movie that I need to go back and watch at some point because I still don't understand the love for it.
And who directed that?
Spike Jonze.
Yeah, I don't like. I don't like the way he sings.
Adaptation.
I don't like the way he sings, but I love the way he talks. 5 people.
Up on trip.
That was for 5 people.
He sends me when I spring a leak.
Don't like the way he sings. Love the way he talks. Look it up, kids. It's a Spike Jonze reference to a different Spike Jonze.
Absolutely, James. Kudos.
All right.
To our 60-plus audience.
So my actual pick is actually going to be one that appeared on a couple of lists, and I'm like,
I thought that was your pick.
No. That was my question. Now here's my one that I actually want to pick.
I can't keep up with you.
Julie Dwyer.
What?
How is this going with Julie Dwyer?
Ask me who Julie Dwyer is.
Who's Julie Dwyer?
She was the girl who was told she might be a little fat, and she got in a pool and she swam herself to death. Joe.
I
Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy.
Is she in all 3?
That storyline is in all 3.
That's
it actually,
true.
in terms of actually doing to tell the story, it's Mallrats because that's what causes the 2 to break up at the beginning. Is the fact that the boyfriend is the one that told her that she looked a little fat in a dress or something along those lines, and she swam herself to death in a swimming pool. In Clerks, it was the funeral they went to when all the chaos happened And then in Chasing Amy, that was when Joey Lauren when Amy and Ben Affleck were walking, he told the story of the girl, and they actually both knew the story. So it was kind of a point of getting them
I
to
need
talk.
to go back and rewatch those movies. I haven't watched them in years.
So that was one that appeared on numerous lists. I'm like, that is a MacGuffin because it's key, but it's irrelevant.
It sets up something that does happen, but you could have used something else. It could have been like, we both enjoy drinking Windex.
Yeah. It did. In Mallrats specifically, it could have been anything. They were actually on the verge of breaking up anyway, and they had to come back and meet each other.
Oh, shit. All I got is multi-surface cleaning. Damn generic.
I've got three. I think I have 3 different colors of Windex.
I mean, I have to drink the Basil Hayden. God damn it.
So anyway, that's my actually pick is Julie Dwyer.
Okay. All right. Here's one that I think is bullshit.
Okay.
The Death Star plans.
Yeah. Man, there's so many they talk about so many MacGuffins in Star Wars, and I think all of them are bullshit.
So the Death Star plans, they actually have to have them to be able to blow up the Death Star. To me, a MacGuffin is something that kind of moves the plot across that they don't really explain. Now, to compare and contrast, children, if you took my communications class, to compare and contrast, that would be a non-MacGuffin because it's essential to the plot. In the movie I'm about to say is the MacGuffin is the microfilm, a clandestine copy of confidential government documents. Am I unfroze?
Yeah, you're unfroze. You're good now.
Okay. The MacGuffin is the microfilm, a clandestine copy of confidential government documents. The villains are spies trying to smuggle the microfilm out of the United States. Notice that the secret in the microfilm is not important nor never explained in this movie. It goes in a directional that the greatest fucking MacGuffin is North by Northwest because there's no reason why.
You think that's the greatest
identity.
MacGuffin?
Huh?
You think that's the greatest MacGuffin?
No, I don't know if it's the greatest MacGuffin. I still stand by as Raiders of the Lost Ark as the Ark, but
how about real quick? Sorry,
because that is a perfect example, though, Chad, of a MacGuffin.
How about the Maltese Falcon?
That was my argument. Was the Maltese Falcon? The
Maltese Falcon's good. I agree, but I always think of MacGuffins. I always think of North by Northwest.
When I think of MacGuffin, I think
have a title that makes sense for the movie.
Well, I agree with you, but when I think of MacGuffin, the first one that always comes into my head is the Maltese Falcon. So,
actually, I assumed one of you all would get to that. It was down
nope,
here.
not on my
want
pick.
to. I literally gun to my head. I figured that would be your go-to. Would be Maltese Falcon.
I thought it was going to be Joe's too. So I
like the Maltese Falcon. I'm a huge fan of John Houston. Anyway, I'm joking, but I'm not a fan at all. Fuck the African Queen. I don't know where this is going.
How, out of all the movies, why African Queen?
I wanted to piss off James
movie.
Thomas.
I love
like
that
the
movie.
African Queen.
I can't wait to see the
Why not?
Wait,
Why
hold
not?
on.
I can't watch John Huston's obscure Brad Dourif movie from the late 70s.
You know what? I can't wait to see the far superior version of the African Queen.
Watch where this joke goes.
Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise.
Why couldn't you pick one of the Rios? There's multiple Rios you could have picked.
Blame it on Rio, James.
By the way,
I was talking about that blue parrot thing. He directed that, right?
John Huston, seriously, look up a movie from the late 70s that starred Brad Dourif and Harry Dean Stanton, directed by John Huston. Didn't know there was such a thing. I didn't either till a month ago. Moving right along. Northwest, they don't even bother. It's a case of mistaken identity. They think he's him. They're after the microfilm. They don't even explain any of that.
He's trying to get the attention.
You know what's fun in that movie?
Everything.
Do you know who's a lot of fun to watch? Cary Grant.
Drunk. Cary Grant getting drunk is one of the best times I've had watching a movie.
I'm telling you. And later when he's talking to his mom, trying to explain it all happened. No, they didn't give me a chaser. Go watch it. It's a line in the movie.
I know it is.
It floors me every time. It floors me. It has some of the best lines. James Mason is the villain. You won't be happy till I play dead. Yes, your next role, and I'm quite sure you'll be. No, hold on. Your next role, you'll be quite convincing at it. And it's said by God, James Mason.
And Captain Bligh, right?
Well, I always say that it's God because of that Eddie Izzard joke that James Mason's voice is always God. He is James. I tried showing North by Northwest to Chris a few years ago, and I should have known we needed a divorce then when she fell asleep. I'll tell her later that I said this in the show. But
well, she listens. She's one of the two.
She's one of the two, right? Yeah, she's pretty good. She's pretty supportive about that. But I that's where, I mean, it's a textbook. You're probably right. I'm probably wrong, but I think of North by Northwest.
No, I just assumed you would go. I mean, if you would, like I said, hold a gun to my head and make
Falcon
me pick.
probably should be a textbook definition, but I always, in my heart of hearts, as soon as we said this show, I was like, well, I've got to throw North by Northwest in. Because it just makes no sense.
Right.
Like the title doesn't even make sense. Ernest, I'd have to Google it. I'm so sorry. Is it Ernest Lehman wrote North by Northwest? And the actual story of how it's called North by Northwest was they didn't have a title. And he said, where are they going? Well, like in the north general direction, North by Northwest. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Keep going.
Is it me again?
And I went into the commissary when I went to visit the faces of the presidents there. What's that called there in South Dakota?
Mount Rushmore?
I went to Mount Rushmore. That was actually the second best thing about it, was seeing because that's where they shot it at inside that commissary there. So it looks the same.
Yeah.
They actually didn't shoot on Lincoln's nose though. But keep going.
What?
See, Chad, those people didn't know anything about.
Well, they obviously, and they couldn't film it on Lincoln's nose because that's where
Ow.
Gee, Davey, do you think it was God?
If it was, he sounds like James Mason.
James Mason.
And they obviously couldn't shoot on the real Lincoln nose. That's where the aliens are. Shit.
I'm so glad he went that way. All right, keep going.
Is it me or is it you, Chad?
No, it's you.
Who gives a shit?
I've got one.
It's always you, James.
Oh man, my. What pressure? No, I thought I would.
This is awkward. You're my Cadbury egg, James. Go, James.
I am filled with caramel and nougat. Wait, it's not nougat. It's cream. Caramel and cream.
It's actually fondant, but go ahead.
Your mom's a fondant. Anyway,
I
wanted to bring up one that was outside of movies. I always try to be the guy that talks about literature or something else, but I'm not even going to go literature this time. I'm going to go old school. The Princess and Mario Brothers video game.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Princess and Super Mario Brothers the movie. I'm like, no, she's not a McGuffin.
No, in the video game. We never know why Mario's going to save her. He's just going to save her. And
does he need a reason? She's got that huge nose. He's in the noses.
Well, that's fine, but there's other people with huge noses. I mean, so my point being is Mario could have called me up. That's cool. I mean, that's not into it, Mario, but still. But no, we never know the reason. It's just we're supposed to go. He's going to go save the princess. So everything that happens in that game, every mushroom he stomps, every turtle shell he throws, every fireball he flings, it's to save the princess, and we know that, but we don't know, nor does it really matter for the scope of the game. Kill mushrooms, turtles, etc. That's the plot of the game. So in that game, now you could argue in the great mythos, as I know Chad is going to, in the great mythos of ongoing Super Mario Brothers game, she was a playable character in part 2, etc., etc. She drives, I know, Chad, she drives in Mario Kart. Stop it, Chad. I know that. That being said, for the scope of the first Super Mario Brothers video game on Nintendo, the princess is a living MacGuffin. There you go.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, there was an entire subcategory. There was an entire subcategory of human MacGuffins. Like, for instance, going back to video games, in one of the Red Dead Redemption games, there is a quest. I'm not making this up, where you go on this quest to find Farmer McGuffin's missing daughter, and you don't make it because you get ambushed by bandits or something. It doesn't matter because you never get to his daughter. You get ambushed on the way. I may be misremembering that, but I just remember the name Farmer McGuffin. So there's some video game examples of MacGuffins. I just wanted to bring that up for our fans to show that we are pop culture, not just movies. But yes, I would argue the princess in the first Mario Brothers game is indeed a MacGuffin. Okay. We know you're going to rescue her, but it doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter how did they choose a plumber to rescue her. Doesn't matter. Play the flipping game. That's the point. Make Nintendo some money. Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about two that are bullshit that actually irritated me to no end that I read them. So Joe mentioned the Death Star plans. I'm going to talk about another Star Wars that showed up on numerous lists. R2-D2's a MacGuffin.
I saw that. I too was like,
see that on a list. I didn't see
that. Was on several lists. R2-D2 is a MacGuffin. You people are idiots. It is not a MacGuffin. R2-D2 is pivotal to the plot.
Actually, you could argue with that R2-D2. None of the Star Wars happens.
None of it happens.
Star Wars. Sorry.
Not one Star Wars happens without R2-D2.
It's fascinating if you think of it from the standpoint, because my biggest problem, there's other things I always forgive the prequel. I don't forgive the prequels, but I couldn't figure out was, well, 3PO's in all this. Why doesn't he ever mention it to anybody? And then they fix it with one throwaway line that R2's been explaining this to him all the time, and he has no recollection of it.
Yeah.
And it's one throwaway line at the end of the third prequel.
Wipe the protocol droid.
Wipe the protocol droid.
So screw you, Internet. You're wrong. And then speaking of the Internet, another one that showed up on numerous lists that's absolute bullshit. The Matrix.
Wait, the Matrix itself as a MacGuffin?
The Matrix itself.
But they wouldn't exist without the Matrix.
I know. This was
what would they be fighting? So if you're saying, so to be a MacGuffin, you have to be able to arguably take it away.
And it not affect the story.
So you take away the Matrix and you just have Keanu working in an office because he's like, okay, well, not in the Matrix.
This is why I think this would be a fantastic episode if we could get one major Hollywood director here to talk about this.
Yeah. You know who would be great to get, Joe, and I think you need to work on it? Spielberg. I think he could add a lot of stuff.
You know, him and Lucas would be the two. You know who I was actually sitting here thinking, I would love to talk to Joe Dante about this.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we could get Joe Dante and John Landis to argue about what a MacGuffin is. What is it isn't.
But yeah,
I want that to happen, but I want it to end with just one of them yelling, "Your mother is a MacGuffin," and then hanging up. Like, just, I don't care which one.
It's to us. It's to us.
Yeah, not at each other.
Who are these Hilljacks? Click.
But I saw the Matrix appear.
See in court, boys.
I did. I saw the Matrix appear on a couple of lists, and I swear to God, I think they copied off. One of them copied off the other. That's why it appeared on two lists. The Matrix.
You know what? Whoever runs that website's a MacGuffin. You can remove it from my life, and it would be
because R2 is an active character throughout the story.
Yeah, I know. And they said that basically they said the fact that he held I think the argument was the fact that he held the Death Star plans was insignificant. It could have been anybody. But no, R2-D2 is a significant character. No, you're not. I'm not arguing with you. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, R2-D2. I don't know that I see how I have a hard time getting there.
But for my actual pick, it's actually my favorite MacGuffin, and I was really hoping either one of you would pick it. Because you know why?
Why?
It ties the room together.
The rug. I thought about it.
Rug.
The rug in The Big Lebowski is, I honestly, in terms of movies that I enjoy, and I love Pulp Fiction, I love The Maltese Falcon, I love North by Northwest, but the most enjoyment I've had out of MacGuffin is the rug.
Oh yeah, well,
it's irrelevant to the story. I mean, it's relevant to the story because it gets everything going. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and he never even gets the rug back.
He never gets the rug back.
He gets a new rug.
And then, in all fairness, he also never gets that thumb or toe. I'm sorry, toe.
Toe.
I can get you toe. Dude. I can get you a toe.
So my favorite MacGuffin is the rug.
All right. Is it my turn? I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
All right. Here's one I don't understand at all. Private Ryan from Saving Private Ryan.
I saw that and I don't understand it. How is it? How
the story? He's even in the beginning and the end, and it shows how them saving him causes him to have generations of children.
Yeah.
How is that a MacGuffin?
Yeah, because I think that's a good point. That can't be a MacGuffin because he goes on to do something. The Holy Grail in Last Crusade falls in a ditch.
It falls in a ditch.
And Tom Hanks even says why they're rescuing him. I mean, it's Yeah,
you can't just replace. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, we're not going to save him. We're going to save Ensign Bernie over here. Well, no, that's not. So yeah, you can't just sub it out. You can't.
Here's one I want to ask you about. There's two, James, because you're a Trekkie, and they both are on lists.
I was going to bring one up myself, so I bet
is it Star Trek one? You want me to let? I'll leave you the Star Trek one. I'll bring up another one.
Okay, go ahead.
Horcruxes from Harry Potter.
Now, I will argue, actually, not so
I don't know enough about Harry Potter.
And I don't know
so
either.
much the Horcruxes, because I think those
McGuffin,
are
the crime movie.
not so much the Horcruxes, because I think the Horcruxes are essential. That's how Voldemort is still around. He relies on those. You have to destroy. However,
I think there should be another term called convoluted.
However,
they're convoluted.
I think the problem is you haven't read the books, and I think the books do a much better job. You divide your soul and put them into, and it makes it a little bit. That being said,
still convoluted.
Harry Potter does have one of the best MacGuffins that does not get attention. And matter of fact, actually, there's an Indiana Jones comic book that looks at the same thing, and that is.
I will argue that the whole plot of Harry Potter is a MacGuffin.
That is the Philosopher's Stone.
I'll say it's derivative.
That is the Philosopher's Stone, or in America, because they were afraid we wouldn't know what the Philosopher's Stone was, the Sorcerer's Stone. Mm-hmm. If you go back and watch the first movie, or more importantly, read the first book, he never uses it. It's never used. I mean, the bad guy's after it, and Harry Potter's after it, but what happens when they get it? Oh, they're like, here, take this, take this, Dumbledore. It's never... We know Nicholas Flamel, who was the original holder, and by the way, if you actually research the history of alchemy, that's an actual historical figure, comes back and gets
she's very smart. And I should not just call one of the bigger pop culture things derivative. I'm sorry, I still can't get into it. I don't know what I've done wrong.
Well, no, I was about to say, and I think the problem is if you start with the movies, it's hard to go back to the books.
I try reading the book.
By the way, the first book, I'll be honest, until I had kids, I never read the first book because I tried it. And it was meant for a younger audience than I was. It came out when I was in college. And I was like, man, I don't care if this kid gets his every flavor bean. That being said, for Harry Potter, I don't know so much if the Horcruxes are, but the Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone in America, is. Because it's much like everything else we've been talking about. You can substitute it. You can say, oh, it's Harry Potter and the cell phone of importance. And as long as at the end of it, Harry Potter just goes, okay, well, I found this first. Here, take this from me. It's never used. So I would argue that the Horcruxes serve a plot point. The Philosopher's Stone is just something that they're after. It's a great storytelling device like a MacGuffin should be, but it doesn't ever do anything.
Okay.
So there you go. That's my feedback on that. Horcruxes, drive plot.
I blew my first one. You can talk about Trek in a minute because I talked to Raiders, but I will talk a little bit about two really quick. Every Mission Impossible movie is based on a MacGuffin. Okay, they talk about the rabbit's foot in the third one.
Yeah, that's actually an example that shows up as some of the worst MacGuffins, one of the worst MacGuffins ever.
And I enjoy some of the Mission Impossible films, especially the last few. I've enjoyed watching them. They're fun. They're entertaining. I'm not shitting on them. I actually like Tom Cruise. I defend him day in and day out to almost anyone. I didn't like him when I was younger, but I do now. And those are all MacGuffins. But I will go ahead because I kind of blew it over on Raiders. I'll talk about the Maltese Falcon because probably most of our audience or a lot of our audience hasn't watched it. And the Maltese Falcon follows Private Eye Sam Spade. I'm getting this from Wikipedia. He becomes embroiled in an increasingly intricate plot revolving around a jewel-encrusted black statuette that had been given in 1539 by the Knights of Malta to Spanish King Charles V. Spade would later refer to the statuette is the stuff that dreams are made of. John Huston made his directing debut on this Dashiell Hammett adaptation, which influenced countless detective tales to follow. Now, here's the reason why it's a MacGuffin. It doesn't show up until the end, and it's not even the real thing. Yeah. It's just the chase for it. We never even see the damn thing. Correct?
Yep.
People die, people are murdered, people are backstabbed, and we don't even see it. They don't even get it. Sorry.
Well, no, and
conversation.
No. I was just Sam Spade was a character that appeared in multiple stories by Hammett. Maltese Falcon being the main one. Right. There were 4 other stories that he appeared in that were shorter stories. But yeah.
All right, James.
The Star Trek one that and I'm assuming this is the same one, and I go back and forth on it because I think it's awful MacGuffin-ish in some ways because it's not essential to the story. In some ways, it's essential to the sequel.
Oh, I now know what you're saying. Okay,
it's essential to the sequel, but it's not. It's the Genesis device.
Yeah, it's essential. Go ahead.
I went back and forth on it in some ways, but what made me say that at least within the scope of Star Trek II, and this is not knocking Star Trek II, we're not knocking movies that use MacGuffins.
No, we
love a lot of movies.
We love them.
That being said, within the scope of Star Trek II, the thing that made me go, maybe it is a MacGuffin, boils down to when Kirk is trapped on the planet and he tries to taunt Khan. And, and he does the entire thing of, you've got Genesis, but you don't have me. And Khan basically goes, I do have you. You're stuck. I'm going to leave you the same way you left me. That takes Genesis out of it. He got what he wanted. Now, he's going to use Genesis to make other people pay, or he's going to do something with it. You never really find out what his master plan was, per se. But the driving point of that movie has nothing to do. Khan didn't seek out Genesis. He sought out to make Captain Kirk suffer, to make Captain Kirk's crew suffer the same way Kirk left his crew to suffer, which was unintentional if you watch the original episode that it's based on. But I was like, oh, the Genesis device, maybe it is Star Trek's MacGuffin, and you could argue it definitely is because we never see it again. They never develop another one. We've got the next 200 years from that story mapped out, and nobody ever goes, hey, let's use this technology again. Never happens. So, again, I'm not knocking it.
I don't know that it is a MacGuffin because it does affect, and if you take in 3,
if you take
would
in
not
3,
have come back to life without it.
No, I agree. And again, that's why I said I had to qualify. Say,
let's take the plot of 3, which is all around Genesis.
It is, yeah.
If without it, we would not have got Spock back to life.
Oh yeah.
Mary, who's listening to her, who's a great fan. She's a huge Leonard Nimoy fan, so she probably,
as wise people are,
right? As Genesis is probably gave her man back.
Well, but I think that's it. But again,
at the perfect age.
Well, now they do explain that somewhat.
It's an offhanded of they finally got him off the planet right about the time he got to that part of puberty.
Which is really funny though, because I do think the flip side of that
on far for Chad.
Well, as I say, and the flip side of that is a scene that was cut from Star Trek 4 was going to have Saavik actually carrying his child, and that's why she stays behind. If you've ever wondered why Saavik stayed behind, which actually would have led to Star Trek 6. Originally, Valeris, who betrays them, it was going to be Saavik coming back to do that, and it would have the entire plot point of that. However, that did not work out. I assume Robin Curtis and Christy Alley were both busy. I don't know the full backstory why that plot got changed. That being said, again, I will admit, if you add on the mythos of Star Trek in its entirety, yes, Genesis is vital. If you just take that film by itself, it could be a MacGuffin.
But it does affect one of the main characters at the end, Chad. James.
It does.
Hold on. I guess it doesn't really kill him.
Nope. Radiation kills him.
You're right. All right. I'll take it back.
So I originally
He's convinced me. Give me my $1 back.
I was originally with you because at first I was like, that's not a MacGuffin. And I'm like, oh, wait. Take it only within the context of that film. It's a bit of a MacGuffin. I'm not knocking it. I love that film. Best Star Trek film ever. Yep. Sorry, Nemesis.
Nobody thinks Nemesis is the best Star Trek film ever.
If you do, feel free to write me at Joe Lewis. Send all your hate mail to me.
All right, who's next? Oh, what's your last pick?
Man, I'm going back and forth.
It was James.
Oh, me. The one I wanted to bring up, just because I think, again, you mentioned Maltese Falcon. A lot of people won't know. I think a lot of people forget one that I thought, oh, this is one I've got to bring up. I wanted to bring up the Green Destiny sword. It was a big movie most people have forgotten about, but I think to this date stands as the biggest box office for a film made in Asia in America. Crouching Tiger and Dragon. And if you watch that movie, what gets it started is he gives his sword, which is called Green Destiny, to somebody and says, bring this back to me later, basically. I'm simplifying that greatly. But then the rest of it is the sword gets stolen. They have to go get the sword, blah, blah, blah. People get poisoned. People die. But and the sword doesn't matter. It's to drive the plot. But at the end of the day, it's not like the sword is used at the last minute to kill 15 people. There's tons of swords used in that movie.
I don't remember the plot. I remember the movie, but I don't remember the plot.
But the Green Destiny sword, despite the fact having the name Green Destiny, it's a MacGuffin. It's cool. And that movie, I think really what that movie deserves credit for is popularizing wire work in American cinema.
Yeah, agreed.
And things like that. It's a cool movie that most people have forgotten, but it definitely has a MacGuffin in the form of the Green Destiny sword. Go back and watch it. It's a cool plot device of please return this sword, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, whether that sword gets returned or not is irrelevant. It's the journey that they end up going on because of the idea of that sword. There you go. Green Destiny.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Pooh Bear. All right, Chad, you go last.
No pressure.
I get one more pick?
Sure. You can. I don't care. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm leaving.
well,
it's good
I'll
knowing
be honest with you. I'm surprised, Joe, that you didn't mention Harry Lime.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that.
If you would use them earlier, Chad, they wouldn't get that way. You can't leave a lime out on a counter for 8 months.
Because I was thinking about that and Rebecca. Rebecca's another one from Hitchcock because you never actually see Rebecca. They talk about Rebecca all the way through the movie.
Which is the flip side of Laura. Because Laura shows up even though she's supposed to be dead.
Yeah, Rebecca. Spoiler. So you never actually see Rebecca. I always wanted to do I had this all laid out. I was going to call mine Victor. And it was about a guy. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm not going to do the plot on here because some asshole actually read it and write it and make money out of it where I was never able to. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, anyway, Chad, what were you going to say?
No, so by the way,
I think Harry Lime, because Harry Lime A does show up at the end of it, and B affects Joseph Cotton's character.
But is he really significant to the plot? Is he irrelevant to the plot?
No,
Okay.
He's not irrelevant to the plot. Well, Joseph Cotton wouldn't be there if he wasn't. Okay, I see what you're saying. But it's Joseph Cotton goes to Vienna. Harry Lime's the one that brings him to Vienna. He's the one that tells him and then he finds out he's dead, but he's faked his own death. But then he does show up at the end. And then, yeah, I kind of think so because he has such an intricate part to play in the third act of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's my counter argument. Have you seen The Third Man in a while?
Me? Yeah, I saw it last year.
What do you think he's a?
I think at the end he's relevant to the plot, but the whole thing leading up to it, I feel like it's insignificant. He's insignificant. That's why I'm like.
But he wouldn't be in Vienna if it wasn't for Harry Lime. They were friends, and he's the one that sends for him.
I mean, that's true. I had trouble with it too, but I
don't see that. I don't see that as a MacGuffin.
Okay. The other one I don't see.
Plus, FYI, for you all out there, it's my favorite Orson Welles performance, and it has my favorite Orson Welles line in it. Talking everything he says on that Ferris wheel with Joseph Cotton is pure effing gold.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
pure gold.
Yep. In terms of screenwriting, that is a piece of art that should be studied.
I quote it on Facebook once a year. You see him down there, old man. Anyway, keep going.
No, the one that appears on several lists. James, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I just saw this. Do you know why some people refer to R2-D2 as a MacGuffin?
Why?
I just found out why.
Why?
George Lucas said it. He said, in his opinion, R2-D2 is the biggest MacGuffin.
Well, George Lucas is.
I know. I'm sorry, George. I mean, we all know your prequels are awesome, but
love to talk to him about McGuffins, though.
I would too. But I just found out. If you want to know where that came from, because I just saw it and I was like, I better say this as part of the show because we all disagreed that it was a MacGuffin. But Lucas, in the audio commentary for Star Wars: A New Hope, says that in his mind, R2-D2 is the biggest MacGuffin. And I that's all he says on the commentary. I would love to have him flesh that out more.
Yeah.
And respond to what we talked about. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
One that's on numerous lists that I say is bullshit. Toby from Labyrinth is not a MacGuffin.
Who's Toby?
The baby. Her brother.
I didn't remember that. Actually, I watched Labyrinth a couple years ago. It's going to piss some people off, but there's some huge
I know you're not a fan of it.
holes in that movie.
Yeah, well, most
I enjoy
Henson
scenes
films.
in it. I enjoy scenes in it, but I don't know that that's an even movie.
And a lot of people get that character's name Toby confused with the other Toby, who was in another movie, but most people knew him as Kunta Kinte.
And there you go.
No, so
Roots, Roots, kid, watch Roots if you've never seen Roots. By the way, completely unrelated to McGuffins.
Alex Haley.
Yes,
I don't. So I'm struggling with my last one, but I'm just going to. I'm just going to pick one, and then one of the other one. Anyway, I'm going to pick one, and then the other one's going to be my honorable mention. I'll go with the classic, The Letters of Transit.
Yeah.
Oh, for Casablanca.
Casablanca. That is a textbook
McGuffin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the greatest films of all time, bar none.
But an accident.
Yes, it was a complete accident. Absolutely complete accident.
Just like me.
At least your mom told you about you.
No, I mean, no, it's just
Mom was a dumpster.
Honestly, it's just one of those things that gets the plot going and then it's never mentioned again. The Letters of Transit. It is an absolute text key, whatever. Yep. It's a MacGuffin. It is one of the best MacGuffins ever done. Not as good as The Rug, but close.
We can't all be rugs.
It's only second in line to the Ark and the Maltese Falcon. Yeah.
Really quick, a couple honorable mentions because we mentioned the Necronomicon is not one.
I don't think so at all.
But if you've got to have if this show doesn't feel complete to you without a Bruce Campbell McGuffin reference, the orb in The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. is a McGuffin.
I almost brought it up. That was one of my lists, and I'm like, no, I'll just scratch that one out. No, the orb was
a McGuffin.
It's a McGuffin. Oh, and then the fact that, oh God, that just shows you as the show was, they realized it was ending. We have no way of getting out of this. Oh man, Orb's a McGuffin.
Orb's totally. By the way, if you watch the beginning of that and think I'll figure this orb thing out, best of luck to you. If you're a Star Trek fan and you're upset about my earlier Nemesis comment because you want a Next Generation reference, there is a line about the Krieger waves in one episode of Star Trek that they're going to figure out the Krieger waves. The episode is called A Matter of Perspective.
Yeah.
They're never mentioned again, and it's just about the scientist. Riker's accused of killing the scientist, and he was on the verge of a breakthrough in Krieger waves, which would have changed all of reality as we know it. And guess what? It never comes up again. It doesn't matter. They needed a way to put Riker on trial for that episode. They could have come, he broke the ray gun machine. Not actually a ray gun machine. It was named after Ronald Reagan. That would have been, you could have had whatever you want there. They just needed a plot point to put Riker on trial. So that's another example of a Star Trek MacGuffin. I did want to say that Joss Whedon is also a big fan of MacGuffins. Joss, if you would like to do the show.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be shocked as hell. But he, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he has what he called a topological MacGuffin in that they have the Hellmouth. And Joss Whedon was asked about how he came up with that, and he said it's a topological MacGuffin, a shortcut in lieu of actually trying to scientifically explain any of what we do. It's just easier to say, let's cut by that Hellmouth over there.
That's
so there you go. That's a Joss Whedon.
I never thought of the Hellmouth as a MacGuffin. That's awesome.
That's according to Joss Whedon. He said it's a topological MacGuffin. I had to have a reason. Why do vampires and zombies and all that stuff come up here? Well, there's a Hellmouth about 2 miles that way. It's a topological MacGuffin. You need it to keep the plot going.
Hold on. Where do you get your ideas, Harlan?
The idea company sends Schenectady. You send them a check. They send you a 6-pack of ideas.
I get a whole new 6-pack of fresh ideas.
Yep.
That's pretty good. I've actually never seen one episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, but I appreciate the value of Allison Hannigan.
I will say there are some really good episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I'd love to. It's one of those things. I'm not being sarcastic. I would love to someday watch.
Yeah, if you can't watch the episode, I think it's called The Death. If you can't watch that episode and get choked up and pretty shaken up, I don't think you have a soul.
Well,
so there you go.
I don't really.
But no, Joe, you have any honorable mentions?
No, but I have a couple that I still say are bullshit. I think I
Go
just
for it.
got rid of them, though. I did. I just got rid of them. Oh, here's one. Good Will Hunting. Will Hunting is the MacGuffin.
What?
What?
No, that's called a protagonist. I think they forgot the term protagonist. That's an example of when you don't know what to say, so you just say something random.
And another big one is Kurtz from Apocalypse Now.
That appears on like number 2 on a lot of lists.
Kurtz has a significant role to play in the third act. So back to Harry Lime. I would say that I have the same argument for both. They both deliver magnificent speeches, and they have a role to play in the third act where they affect characters. He cuts off Dennis Hopper's fucking head.
Well, and I was about to say, and that's the key.
And throws it at him, or throws it at.
And even if you go back to the source material, so to speak, of Heart of Darkness and all of that stuff, if you stop it 2/3 of the way through, sure, you can say he was the MacGuffin.
I agree. If the movie did not find Kurtz, then he would be a MacGuffin.
MacGuffin. I mean, if it was all these horrible things happen and you explore
if they got there and he's dead, or they got there and but he has an effect on those characters. I've never actually read Joseph
Conrad.
Yeah, Joseph Conrad. I should. So many books I should read. But he has, I don't know about the book, but in the movie, Apocalypse Now, he affects the characters in the third act.
And now it's been a while since I've read Heart of Darkness. It's probably been about a year or so. But
and the protagonist, he affects the protagonist quite a bit.
Well, that's it. Because if you read Heart of Darkness, unlike the horror,
arc leaves Indy alone.
The horror, and all that stuff. But there's actually a little bit more in the book that goes beyond that. But you're absolutely right. Even in the book, it's the protagonist, the narrator in the book, realizing, quote unquote, how close we could all be to Kurtz in some ways, and then the fact that it's, to me, and I'm going to use another example of a novel that's been made into a movie several different times, but it's the same thing. That would be almost like saying that Dr. Moreau and the Island of Dr. Moreau is a MacGuffin. And he's not, because the quest to find him, sure, but once you find him and you realize the horrors, and when anytime you can end your movie or your book or your play or whatever with having a character say, I can't believe this entity exists, this person exists, that they live this way, and I take that with me, and that person cannot be a MacGuffin anymore. Because at the end of the day, Indiana Jones wants the Holy Grail, right? But when it drops, he's still got his dad. And then it shifts back to, it's that father-son relationship. Then the MacGuffin stopped mattering, right? We don't care. Like, we're not sitting there at the end of the movie going, you totally should have left your dad for dead and kept that Grail, Indy. That's not how it works. The MacGuffin, and that's why I do have an issue with R2-D2, but I agree. I don't think Kurtz is. Kurtz can't be the MacGuffin because he impacts the psyche of the character too much.
Right. Yeah, that's it. I'm good. I really think we need to. I want to do another one. Only I want to do it with somebody who's a filmmaker about this, because I'm really curious to get an outside view of this.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Chad.
No. You go.
An inside view, I should say.
Well, I just think, even if not a director, I would love to have
writer, somebody,
writer, just somebody, because I think that's that. Because I think that's one of the things. Because like we were already alluded to, the MacGuffin is vital in its unimportance, right? We have to have something we care about them finding, like that. We tune in for Raiders of the Lost Ark because, oh yeah, of course you're going to go look for the Ark if you think you can find it, and we buy into that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I hope Indy doesn't get shot. I hope Marion turns out okay. I'm kind of rooting for her too, and I think that's it. But you need that as a sales point, and I think that's one. And the reason I say a writer or somebody is that's one of the biggest challenge, I think, and Spielberg and Lucas has said the same thing for the Indiana Jones film. It's extremely hard to think of a MacGuffin that would justify, jumping on that plane, pulling out the weapon.
James cut out on me.
The gun again, like, especially after the ones you've already played. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? How about now?
I heard you the whole time.
Literally, I think that's the challenge with the Indiana Jones films now is you found the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail.
I agree.
It's hard to top.
It's hard to go on. I think it's hard to go. They're lucky they had the Holy Grail.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. I think that's one of the challenges when you
Ark of the Covenant.
When you think about creating characters and creating and writing and doing all that stuff, especially when it comes to you want to have a series, and I think that's and the books my kids read and things like that. That's one of the things that I think authors have gotten relatively good at is finding ways of how do we keep people coming back to this world. But you've got to have a reason for people to come back. And that is the biggest challenge because I'll be honest, I want to see Indiana Jones 5. But it's what in the back of my mind, it's going to be like, what's he going to find now? Actual Jesus?
It's Indiana Jones, a fountain of youth, so they can make
that's
another
fine.
one.
Yay, Chris Pratt.
All right. So, guys, anything else?
No.
Go ahead.
No, so I do want to say one more that's bullshit that has appeared on again a couple of lists. John Connor is not a MacGuffin.
No.
People are idiots.
Because in part 2, when Arnold goes down in the molten steel, no, I'm okay. But I mean, it's he has a story arc.
Yeah, I agree. And but the one the honorable mention that I do want to talk about the fact because we talk about him a lot and with all due credit, Shane Black's The Nice Guys.
That is a good one.
The Nice Guys
is a great MacGuffin. Yes, The Nice Guys. It is a great MacGuffin.
That's the one I was struggling with. I don't even remember. It's something to do with the auto industry.
No,
it's pornography, isn't it?
It's the murder of the porno star and the kidnapping of the girl.
Okay, you broke up on me. It's a kidnapping of the girl, but it's all attached to the auto industry.
Because I'm just
all right, we're all
hanging out with those characters.
Yeah, we're starting to break up a little.
There are signals he's recording. Does this mean he's not getting any of this great material? Oh crap!
Joe's back. I don't know. We're gonna find out though, James.
No, it's the.
I wouldn't call it.
No, is it just now catching up for him?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say it out loud. Once I was just like, really great.
No, but yes, it's the pornograph, the murder of the porn star and the
missing girl. It's
the missing girl.
It's
but it doesn't matter because I agree. Nice Guys is one of those movies that I don't care what they're doing. The way they play those characters is just fun.
Yeah, and sadly, we're never going to get a sequel. I wish we would, but no. That's what I wanted to wrap on is because it was between The Nice Guys and The Letters of Transit, and I went with the more classic film, even though I really love The Nice Guys.
I do too. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much. If you have an argument about what a MacGuffin is, let us know. Send that hate mail to I'm not making this joke again. Just let us know. Tweet us, Facebook us, Instagram us, share us on your social media. We need subscribers. Thank you.
Do we have an Instagram account?
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
Joe runs it. I don't do anything with Instagram.
I can never. I honestly when I tag something on Instagram, I just tag Bonehead in it.
I can't do Instagram. I don't want to be too big of an influencer.
Don't worry. And with that, thank you all so much for tuning in.
Uh-huh.